What do you get when you cross prehistoric cavemen with the need for a nutritional and delicious breakfast for children today? The answer might shock some of you, because it's none other than one of America's longest-running cereals, everyone's favorite, Fruity Pebbles. But while most of us will remember the taste and the Flintstone mascot of the cereal from our childhood, many of us probably don't know exactly how this treat gets made, which is why in this video, we'll be exploring how Fruity Pebbles are made. And that whole process, like every other one, starts with the raw materials, or for Fruity Pebbles specifically, with the raw rice. Yes, rice, not corn, forms the basis of this legendary cereal, and for good reason, as you'll see later on. But for now, all you need to know is that the production of this humble breakfast table treat starts with trainfuls of rice. That's right, entire train carriages of rice full of plain white rice are brought to the Post food plant in Michigan to be turned into pebbles every single day. In fact, over the course of a year, the making of pebbles alone uses up over 700 billion grains of rice. But before that can happen, the rice must go through a ton of other steps. So let's take a look at them one by one. The rice cleaner. Now, once the rice containers are brought to the factory, the workers must first unload the rice and rinse it thoroughly with cool water. This is to ensure that the rice is first of all clean, and second of all, so that it loses some of the excess starch, which would make the end product tough and gummy instead of the light and fluffy treats you and I enjoy. And once this is done, the rice can then be sent on to the next station on the list, the boiler. Now, unlike corn cereals, which are usually made by making a cornmeal paste that is then cooked in the shape of the cereal, to make Fruity Pebbles, the rice needs to already be cooked once, since it takes so long to cook. For this purpose, almost 400 pounds of rinsed and clear rice is dumped into giant vats of boiling water, along with just a little bit of salt, so that it can help with the cooking without affecting the taste. It is also at this stage that the first big component of the Fruity Pebbles experience gets added into the mix in the form of color. Now, one fun fact about the colors. A lot of you might be shocked to know that Fruity Pebbles didn't always look as bright and colorful as they do now. In fact, when the product was launched, there were only 3 colors in each box: yellow, red, and orange. It wasn't until the 80s when they introduced purple and green in 1980 and 84, respectively, with even more colors getting introduced as time went on. Nowadays, each of these colors is added to separate vats of boiling rice early in the stage so that the color gets absorbed deep into the rice and we are left with a vibrant-looking end product once the rice is cooked. For this, the rice is allowed to cook in 200-degree Fahrenheit water for almost 20 minutes to give us perfectly tender boiled rice. Now that that's done, the steaming rice can be sent off to the next stage of the process. Tempering. While tempering might sound like something you do with a metal plate or a sword, in the making of rice, it is the process of allowing cooked rice to very slowly cool down and become dry before doing anything to it. For this, the still steaming rice is brought into a temperature and moisture controlled room where the rice will cool down in the open for at least a couple of hours before any further use. This allows the rice to harden a little so that it doesn't fall apart at the next and most important stage, the steamroller. Now, of course, I'm not talking about an actual steamroller, but the contraption used to make these pebbles isn't that far off. You see, to turn the rice into Fruity Pebbles, the workers don't turn it into a paste or anything like that. Instead, all they have to do is smush the boiled rice into a thin piece that'll eventually become the cereal flake. Yep, that's right. Each individual Fruity Pebble was once a singular grain of rice that was smashed into that form by a machine just like this. In fact, this machine alone is capable of turning thousands of grains of rice into perfect little Fruity Pebbles every single minute. Speaking of pebbles, did you ever wonder why Pebbles was the chosen name for this cereal, even when the flakes clearly don't look like pebbles? Well, as the story goes, when the cereal was created, the people at Post Cereal wanted to license a cereal based on the Flintstones. And when picking a name for the cereal, the president of Post ended up selecting the name of the Flintstones' daughter, Pebbles. So that's a cute little anecdote for the breakfast table the next time you're having the cereal. But back to the main process. Once these pebbles have been created, they're almost ready to reach their final shape. But there are still 2 important steps left, starting with the toasting. Now, while the dryness of the rice before being smushed does mean that the resulting flakes are also able to hold their shape without much difficulty, they're still very much just smashed bits of boiled rice. And to turn them into the pebbles you and I love, they need to be cooked once again, this time using a super hot oven. For this, as the completed flakes fall from the roller onto the conveyor belt, they are brought into a large toasting oven, where their entire conveyor is hit with a blast of almost 500 degrees Fahrenheit for a few minutes. This is not only drying out the rice further, giving the cereal its light and airy texture, but it causes the pebbles to puff up with tiny blisters, resulting in that signature Fruity Pebble shape. Add the flavor tumbler. That's right. This giant washing machine-like thing you're looking at on the screen right now is actually the way these pebbles are flavored. For this, the toasted and cooled down pebbles are added to giant tubs just like this one, alongside liquid sugar, some natural and synthetic fruit flavoring, as well as some vitamins and preservatives for extended shelf life. And the end result of this entire process are delicious, beautiful Fruity Pebbles, almost ready to make your breakfast that much more special. Drying. Now, while the previous stage does add a bunch of flavor to the whole thing, the pebbles do absorb some of the moisture present in the liquid sugar, making them a little moist and susceptible to going bad once packed. So, in order to counter this, and to add a little bit of extra crunch to the end product, the flavored pebbles go into a dehydrating chamber, where they are toasted at a very low temperature to draw out any remaining water. And once that is complete, we're almost at the finish line with mixing and packing. Here, first, the different colors and flavors of the pebbles are mixed together in similar amounts in a large hopper. Then, the hopper, which has a hole at the bottom, deposits the pebbles onto a conveyor belt that deposits them inside a long plastic tube, which is weighed for the correct amount, before a set of heated elements seals the tube into plastic bags full of lovely cereal. These plastic bags can then be packed into boxes, by hand or by machine, resulting in the boxes of nutrition you and I love. In fact, the pebbles are so popular that every single year, nearly 55